In case you missed it, check out the Timcast IRL episode we did the other day with Steve Bannon. In that episode, and also the members segment, which gets really spicy over at timcast.com, Bannon says this is it. The Biden administration is done. The emperor has no clothes. And I completely agree with him. And I think he agrees with me when I say there's no president. Now, we probably have different views on what that ultimately means, but we can agree there's no leadership here. The way I described it the other day on the member segment was that Joe Biden didn't so much get elected as Donald Trump was anti-elected. You know, Bannon and I were talking about the votes and certain issues, and I said enthusiasm against Trump was equally as high as enthusiasm for Trump. And so what you end up getting is Biden wasn't selected by the people for his leadership skills. Of course not. The Atlantic said, stay alive, Joe Biden. All we need is your corporeal form. And I'm not exaggerating. It's actually an article from The Atlantic. And here we are. Biden's approval rating drops to 41%. Stunningly, the mainstream media coming out against Joe Biden. Well, we know they love war, but now it's just bad. Because when you lose the warmongers, what have you got left, Biden? That's been your thing, hasn't it? The establishment, just propping up, just nation building. We call it war, but let's be real. Bannon made this point the other day. Good point. Nation building. That it was one thing to go to Afghanistan because we were attacked. And these extremists were using this, as a base of operations, essentially. And so as much as I still disagree with that, I'm much older. I was a lot younger. I didn't really know a whole lot about it. I'm still no fan now about even going after those who attacked us, because ultimately it required an invasion of a foreign country, one in which every great empire has struggled or ultimately failed to conquer, I guess is the right word, or successfully complete their mission. So here we are in absolute chaos. Americans stranded. Quite possibly, this is the biggest American hostage situation we have ever seen. We talked about Argo the other day. You ever see the movie Argo with Ben Affleck? A handful of Americans trapped in an embassy, and they stage this great escape, and it becomes a movie about these Americans trapped in Iran. 15,000 Americans, maybe more. Trump comes out with an attack ad. Or I should say a Trump pack, I believe. Surrender in chief. The U.S. allies are urging Joe Biden to extend the deadline to give us time to evacuate these people. It's already been a disaster. It shouldn't have to happen. And I'm not a fan of the idea of extending the deadline either. But what do? It's tough, isn't it? Biden's already trying to deploy. He's already deploying more troops. So his approval rating dropping to a new low. Yeah. No surprise. And the benchmark here is the independent voters. The partisan's going to partisan. Democrats love him. Republicans hate him. But independent voters are saying enough. This is a disaster. And independent voters were split on Trump in 2020. And it's too bad enough of them didn't wake up, because they were the ones who made the impact. Partisans were going to partisan. I fear, I hope you all brace yourselves for the videos that are going to start to come out, and we're already seeing them. There's a video of a man, I believe he's Australian, bloody, beaten. He was trying to get out of Afghanistan. What do you think they're going to do to Americans? The Taliban can say whatever they want. We know their word is meaningless. These Americans are stranded. And of course, maybe 90% of the Taliban are willing to abide by their leadership when the U.S. says, just get our people out and we don't care. Fine. The Taliban says, okay, we'll get your Americans out. But how many of these guys are going to be like, I don't care. Literally don't. Oh, that American? Contractor. Nope, he's not going anywhere. And then you'll start to see these videos. And my fear is they'll use that as propaganda to say, see, we need to go back. We need to bolster our troops. And that's what Biden's already doing. So his approval rating should be in the gutter. And it is. From timcast.com. A new poll indicates the American public is dissatisfied with Joe Biden's performance as commander-in-chief. Not only that, but a CBS poll found 52% of people think he's not competent. Took him long enough. USA Today reports, after 2 decades of combat, Americans by more than 2 to 1 say the war, the nation building in Afghanistan, launched in the wake of 9/11 wasn't worth it. In a new USA Today Suffolk University poll, 3 of 4 predict the Taliban-led country will once again become a haven for terrorists targeting the U.S. For President Joe Biden, the cost of the war's chaotic end has been steep. His overall job approval rating now stands at 41%. who approve versus 55% who disapprove. A big drop in the closely watched barometer of political health. Until last week, national polls generally showed his approval rating above 50%. And that was independent voters. Because like I said, Democrats love him, Republicans hate him. But this is the independent voters' swing. It's going to have a huge impact on 2022. Let's read more. Despite the drop in support, the administration continues to deflect criticism of their Afghanistan policy, with Press Secretary Jen Psaki claiming it's irresponsible to say U.S. citizens are stranded in the chaotic country. Talk about, okay, it's one thing to try and spin. It's one thing to be like, no, that's not a pile of garbage. That's, in fact, a relocation of refuse. And you're like, bro, that's a pile of garbage, right? What they're doing right now is so insane. You know, at least when you try to spin something with a fancy term, a refuse relocation project. Yeah, a garbage dump. They're coming out and being like, no one's stranded. It's like, dude, there are people on camera with being beaten. And you're like, they're not stranded. You mean they can walk through these crowds where they're being beaten? No, we can see it. It's like if someone said there's a pile of garbage over there and you said, no, there isn't. No, well, I can see it. No, you can't. What? What is Jen Psaki doing? I think it's irresponsible to say they're stranded. They're not. We are committed to bringing them. Oh, okay, let's play the semantic game. What she's saying is they're stuck there technically, but because we're working on getting them out, they're not stranded. All right. If my friend's car breaks down and they're like at the mall and they call me, they're going to be like, I am stranded at the mall. And I say, I will come pick you up and help you out. And then my friends will say, where are you going right now? I'm on my way to pick up my friend who's stranded at the mall because his car broke down. You see how that works? America is working towards evacuating Americans who are stranded in Afghanistan. That's how it works. And they're trapped by the Taliban. Let's take a look at this polls, and then we'll talk about what I mean. We're already withdrawing our troops. It's incredible. We abandoned Bagram Air Force Base. It's incredible. What did you think was going to happen? Trump was anti-elected. There is no real president. What I mean by that is Joe Biden is so absolutely pathetic. His administration is so absolutely broken. There may as well be no one in charge. And another thing I was saying, I want to just stress this. You know, even with Biden being whacked out of his mind, I still thought there were adults in the room who were going to be like, okay, Biden, that's right, go to sleep. Let's get this job done. I at least thought Kamala Harris would be doing something. Now you can see that beyond the emperor having no clothes, there's nobody clothed, I guess. Kamala Harris is just sitting back and letting Biden sputter, maybe because she's thinking like, good, get rid of him and then I'll come in. It's scary, isn't it? Well, let's take a look at the Hard Civics polling. Do you approve or disapprove of the way Joe Biden is handling his job as president? It was fairly split for a long time. And when he started, when he was inaugurated, most people approved. And you know what the issue is? It's not Republicans. Republicans have always disapproved of him, 90%. Democrats have always approved of him. Now, to be fair, Biden started among Democrats with 90% approval and now sits at 85%. That's big. It is. I know it's only 5%, but for partisan Democrats to swing away from Biden, Biden's disapproval when he started was 3%, and now it's at 6%. He is losing even some Democrats on this one. It's the independent voters that matter, because the independent voters are the ones who are going to hand 2022 to either the Republicans or the Democrats, and it seems like it is going to be Republicans. This is what I view as Biden's true approval rating. His true approval rating. Why? I don't care what Democrats think or Republicans. I get it, okay? In terms of liking Joe Biden, of course Republicans don't like Joe Biden. What I mean when I don't care about what they think, what I'm saying is, I get it, guys. You love him or you hate him. But who is going to win over the electorate for 2022 and in California with the recall election and that D and that R that stands strong in these elections? It's the independent voters who must be convinced. And I will tell you this right now, Republicans are winning that one. Either through sheer incompetence and failure of Joe Biden and his administration, or through great persuasion from their excellent campaigning. To be fair, this ad from Donald Trump, surrender in chief. Wow. You got Colbert criticizing Biden. You've got Jake Tapper criticizing Joe Biden. This ad is really, really something. And it's sad and it's scary. Look at this. When Joe Biden started, independent voters disapproved of Biden 44 to 42%. You know what that means? Biden's overall approval at the start was carried by Democrats, and by losing them, he quickly jumped into disapproval. But now we can see independent voters have been increasingly disapproving of Joe Biden. You know why? I think a lot of independent voters are not playing the partisan game. They're thinking, okay, Biden won, let's give him a chance. I want to be reasonable. I don't want to play Biden derangement syndrome. But we got to be honest. A lot of what they criticized about Donald Trump was fake news. I'll throw it right to one of the most prominent instances when Trump was with Shinzo Abe of Japan and they were feeding the koi fish in the pond, right? And then the camera zooms in and Trump dumps all the food in and they made fun of him for it. And I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Who cares if Trump dumps food? But they said he was uncouth, disrespectful, and they just mocked him. Then the real footage came out showing that Trump just did what Shinzo Abe did. Or how about the very fine people hoax, where the media kept saying over and over and over again, Trump called the people in Charlottesville very fine people when he said they should be condemned totally. He was talking about not the bad people. The media lies. And so I come out and say, I have to stop making me defend the guy. Now with Joe Biden, I don't want to play Biden derangement syndrome, but objective reality takes hold. To all the leftist commentators say Afghanistan was Trump's plan. He's the one who negotiated this deal and it's on him because it's happening. No, it isn't. Trump is literally not overseeing the withdrawal. He's literally not the president. So you could have someone who's a manager at a McDonald's be like, I would like to roll out a new cheeseburger. And then you fire him and hire a new guy who botches everything. I'm not going to blame the guy who had the idea to do it and said, let's roll out a new cheeseburger. I'm going to blame the guy who didn't make the cheeseburger right. I go and order my burger and it comes out and it's got 500 pickles on it. I'm like, this is not food. Pickles are good, but come on, too much, right? Or it comes out and there's no meat. Well, clearly the plan called for a burger on the bun. Whoever's managing this place right now has screwed it all up. Am I going to call it the guy who said, I want to make it? No. And you see, they're so obsessed with Orange Man bad, even when Joe Biden is literally the president. I can blame Obama for a lot of things. I can blame him for a lot of the nation building and what's going on in Iraq and Afghanistan. You betcha. Donald Trump was president. And when Donald Trump was president, the buck stops with him. He should have fired him out a lot of people. He didn't play right. And I'll tell you this. I'll tell you, at least as far as I'm concerned, I'm not a partisan Republican. I don't like the Republican Party. They don't do anything. I am disgusted and furious because they waste my time. There's a handful of good Republicans. We always shout out Ron Paul, of course, and Thomas Massie. Of course, Ron is retired because they're great. And there's a handful of others who fight, and I can respect that. Marjorie Taylor Greene's a fighter. Lauren Boebert's a fighter. Matt Gaetz and Hawley and Cruz, they seem to be standing up, but. Rand Paul has always been a big fan of Rand Paul. The filibusters and the NDA and things like that, because if you truly believe in liberty and individual freedom, you need someone fighting for you. Unfortunately, the Republican Party doesn't do that. So here I am trying to figure out what do we do now. These independent voters, where Joe Biden's approval rating is 31%, that's what matters. That is ultimately what matters, in my opinion. Because these are the people who are going to be voting in 2022 in California. And right now they're saying, we wanted to give Joe Biden a chance. I felt that way. Look, you win some, you lose some. There's a whole lot of contentious stuff around the election, but let's not sabotage the plane because we don't like the pilot. Now, perhaps the pilot is flying us in a direction we don't want to go. And so we'll keep voicing our concerns and be like, look, you do a good job. You flying this plane. We'll give you credit where credit is due. Instead, Biden fell asleep and the plane's going, and we're just like, someone do something. So much for the threats. Taliban ignore Biden's request to let civilians to Kabul airport, and Westerners are beaten. U.S. airlifts more than 19,000 in 24 hours as desperate Afghans cause a stampede at the airport amid fears of an ISIS-K attack. That's how bad it's getting, man. Take a look at this. U.S. begins reducing troop levels at Kabul airport. You want to know why that's significant? They said that Donald Trump was a slap in the face of our allies and making America look bad. Okay. From the AP. G7 leaders can't sway Biden to delay Afghanistan withdrawal. He already did. Biden has screwed this up to such an absurd degree that now even the U.S. allies are roasting him. The withdrawal was supposed to be May 1st. Biden had He had just about 3 months to carry out the deal. It should have been his first priority. A lot of people have pointed out, well, there's a few things I'll say. One, look, I don't know classified information. It's easy for me to sit back, armchair criticism, and be like, oh, Biden, you should have done X, Y, or Z. But the experts, as much as we decide to trust the experts, but a lot of people have pointed out we abandoned Bagram Air Force Base. I mean, we didn't just decommission it and put up a sign saying we'll be leaving X amount of time. In the middle of the night, we just left, and looters came. And we could have been using Bagram for the air evacuations. That was absolutely absurd. Failure. And Mark Milley, joint woke chief or whatever, comes out and says, well, I was told to guard the embassy. What a moron. Were there no adults in the room to be like, maybe we should keep the Air Force Base? Doesn't it make sense? This is the craziest thing. When I saw all this, I was like, why wouldn't they do the evacuations before pulling the troops out? Does Biden want this? No, I think it's simple. Let's make the least amount of assumptions. Joe Biden is not there. We know he's not there. He barely speaks. He won't take questions half the time, most of the time. And we know it. Biden was the result of an anti-election. People saying, no Trump. They didn't care who. And now you got a guy who's probably asleep all day. That's why he's doing his press events at 3 p.m. Because he's got to go to bed by 5. Sundowning, right? He's too old. He can't handle it. Kamala, Milley, politicians, this administration, they're not competent people who want to do the right thing by the American people. They're power-hungry, despotic, petty tyrants. And they're just sitting there thinking like, once Biden falls, I ain't taking responsibility for this. Don't look at me. So there's no adults in the room. And it's just falling to chaos. The U.S. is already starting to withdraw its troops. Okay. The problem here is we want them to be withdrawn. It's a good thing to get out of nation building. As Bannon mentioned the other day on the show, imagine if we took $2 trillion and put it into America. The working class is getting screwed. They're sending your children, your brothers, your sisters, your friends to go and die to nation build, extracting U.S. taxpayer dollars and lives. For what? So it's good we're getting out. I can respect that. The problem is we need to evacuate the Americans, right? Isn't that it? Everything I'm talking about is for the betterment of the American population and citizenry and those who are stranded in Afghanistan. I don't want to remain in Afghanistan. I want to get out, but at least we can say, okay, let's get the Americans out and then the troops. It'll be part of the same evacuation, but herein lies the main issue. When they announce they're withdrawing the U.S. troops first, they're saying that those Americans who are there are trash, that they don't have to save them, and it doesn't matter. The American military should be defending the American people. They're not. They're leaving. They are leaving Americans behind. I want the withdrawal to happen. I want the troops to leave. But the withdrawal includes the American citizens who are there, which means priorities. If we're going to have an effective withdrawal, Americans evacuate, followed by military. Joe Biden won't do it. Why? Because he's surrendered to the Taliban. He is just doing whatever they say. He's saying, the CIA chief gets sent to negotiate with them. And the Taliban says no deadline change, August 31st or else. It is going to be, I hope not, a bloodbath. When they say you have until August 31st to get out, do you think they're only talking about the troops? Or do you think they're talking about the 15,000? It may be around 11,000. They've evacuated a decent amount, but this 10 plus thousand Americans, do you think they're not included? The Taliban's going to tolerate them being there? Trump PAC hits Biden on Afghanistan in new digital ad. Former President Donald Trump is launching a new campaign-style advertisement on digital platforms, attacking Joe Biden, criticizing his embattled successor's handling of the U.S. military withdrawal from Afghanistan. The 90-second spot referring to Biden as surrender-in-chief is a montage of still photographs and video clips depicting the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan and chaos in Kabul, as Americans and their Afghan allies struggle to secure their evacuation from the South Central Asian nation. You got to see it. It's powerful stuff. And I want to make this point clear. Donald Trump did something fantastic in negotiating an end to the Afghan nation-building conflict. I thought it was wonderful. They criticized him for bringing the Taliban out. How dare he? And I'm like, let's get out of this country. $2 trillion, 20 20 years and thousands of U.S. lives, not to mention the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of civilians displaced or killed. And Biden came in and just didn't have the abilities. You know what's funny is that these people who voted for him did not consider what was going to happen. They did not consider this. When you take a look at the plans in place, they didn't think about what happens next year. They didn't think about if Trump has a plan for X and we swap him out with incompetent Biden, what happens? They didn't. They just said, I don't want Trump, orange man bad. The orange man is bad and the demented man, oh, but that's fine. You see, they didn't think about that. It's hate. When I was talking to Bannon yesterday on the member segment, go to timcast.com, check out the member segment, become a member, watch. It's an hour long. I think it's fantastic. Biden asks me if I believe that, Bannon asks me if I believe that Biden won. Of course I do, right? Because I have witnessed a transformation among people I've known and trusted for a long time, among family members who used to be fun, smiles, barbecues, and they have become zealous, psychotic, rage-filled hate mongers. You've seen it, haven't you? All of a sudden, people you knew just insulting you and deriding you and calling you a maggot. And I'm like, did you see the change happen in these people? Yes, the hatred has boiled up so much in their hearts. I absolutely believe they voted for Joe Biden, not because they like Biden or want him, because they hate you and they hate Donald Trump. And so I absolutely can believe it when I was shocked to see skateboarders who I had known, who never cared about politics, just all of a sudden spewing vile, disgusting things. Look at what they say about COVID victims. They're like, I hope they die. It's scary, isn't it? When you see people saying, F you, screw you, I don't care anymore. The embracing of authoritarianism. Yes. Yeah, I can believe it. I look forward to seeing what happens with some of these audits, but the vile hatred, man, spread. And you end up with this pathetic leadership. Things are going to change. I keep saying Biden. Bannon was saying the other day, the presidency is over. The people are seeing through it. How can Biden recover from this? I agree. Now they're starting to realize the incompetence and failures of this man. So yeah, absolutely. We'll see how that manifests in the recall in the coming election in 2022. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.